Welcome in to the Husker Afterparty Postgame Show on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. The Husker Afterparty Postgame Show is brought to you by Action Plumbing, AC and Electrical, Gary Michaels Clothiers, and Brandt Excavating. Now, here are your hosts, Jake Bakoven and Nick Sainert.
Welcome in. It is the Husker Afterparty Postgame Show, 93.7 The Ticket, ticketfm.com. Nick Sainert, Jake Bakoven hanging out with you guys. Shout out to our sponsors, Action Plumbing, Heating, AC, and Electrical, Gary Michaels Clothiers, and Brandt Excavating. Once again, Nick Sainert and Jake Bakoven hanging out with you guys. Want to hear from you guys the entire show today, 402-464-5685 as Nebraska loses 49-14 at home against the Oklahoma Sooners. Buck, good afternoon.
Yeah.
What are your first thoughts after Nebraska's loss?
Well, very frustrating for a lot of Nebraska fans. I mean, we kind of had that renewed energy with Mickey Joseph. The pregame, the first drive, it was a lot of fun, wasn't it?
It looked good.
I think it might have been the most fun that we're going to have this year, or I have had this year. And unfortunately, that's becoming quite a theme for Nebraska football. Is the high point of the season is when you jump up on somebody early, and then it all falls apart. But that's what happened today. I think that there were obviously several issues. The defense still needs a lot of work. The offensive line is in a really bad place.
Offensive line is atrocious.
Yeah.
And that's putting it lightly.
And losing Prohaska obviously didn't help. We knew they weren't great at tackle last season. Same guys now going in there, and that just didn't work. So just a lot of work to do for Mickey Joseph, and just a crazy day altogether. I mean, I think it's hard to avoid the Urban Meyer part. So yeah, a lot of things to discuss here. I know it's not going to be people's favorite after party, or if we can call that an after party, because this is Nebraska, Oklahoma. This was, this means something beyond just the game week and when it's in. This is not very often the second time that Oklahoma's actually come into Lincoln as a non-conference opponent. Obviously, the first time being back in the Big 12, and so this is a team you just want to stick it to. You at least want to play competitively in. And Oklahoma could have named their score today. They called off the horses, but it was that type of game.
So something new that we're doing this week, and then we kind of want to involve you guys, the listeners. Head over to our Twitter page, 93.7 The Ticket on Twitter. New this week, the American Senior Benefits Player of the Game will be selected by you guys, the listeners. So get to Twitter now to vote in our online poll. The voting will run for 90 minutes, and then it is closed, and it'll be announced later tonight. Tough to decide on a couple options. There are 4 options here. And it's between Casey Thompson, who finished 14 of 20 through the air, 129 yards, and 1 touchdown. There's also Trey Palmer, who had 10 catches for 92 yards and a touchdown. Luke Reimer, who led the team, was tied for the team high in tackles with 8, or A.J. Allen, who was the second leading rusher on the team. Gabe Ervin got in some garbage time. And actually was the lead rusher tonight, 7 carries for 60 yards for Gabe Ervin, but A.J. Allen finished with 11 carries for 49 yards. Just a really, really disappointing game. Want to hear you guys, your thoughts all day long, all afternoon long. 402-464-5685. There's a lot of discussion about coaches. There's a lot of discussion about, and we'll get into all that. But want to hear your guys' thoughts. Let's go right off the bat to the Honda of Lincoln hotline, where we're joined by Dominique. Dominique, what's on your mind, man?
Hey, hey guys, how y'all doing? Just wanted to give a shout out to Mickey Joseph, first black coach. Mm-hmm. Well, however you want to say it, first black head coach football.
Yeah. And
shout out to the Sooners and Huskers, both my families is dividing line. So I just basically sat back and watched the team. I kind of want to double back to a comment I made during the spring game, and actually you took my text about the offensive line. And I kind of want to make this comment. It's case in point. We really should have put more thought into recruiting more of the offensive line, or at least, we tried the defensive line, but a lot more offensive line in the portal. Mm-hmm. And it's case in point, because the only time that we even got a transporter on offensive line was due to injury. Mm-hmm. So I think we need to put more efforts in the offensive line, and hey, we'll see if we can go from there. Go Big Red, Boomer Sooner.
Thank you, Dominique. Appreciate the call. Once again, 402-464-5685. 8-5 Bach. I'll say this, man. I mean, you look at this game, and I told you this. I may have predicted a Nebraska win. And did I really believe it? No. But did I believe or think for a moment that Nebraska was going to come out and lose 49-14, basically 49-7 prior to that game? No, I did not. I knew this offense was bad, but I thought that the defense was bad, but I thought the offense would be able to do a little bit at least.
Yeah, and to Dominique's point, I mean, that's again something that I think it's just kind of funny because some people can get caught up in the offseason, and obviously a lot of us did, and hype and get excited for it and say, well, Scott Frost definitely won the offseason this year.
Yeah.
But when you look back at it, last season, that was the biggest issue they had to address was the offensive line, and they just couldn't get it done in the transfer portal. And so you knew that you were going to be dealing with pretty much the same guys, and you hope that Raiola would be the hire that elevated you. That, I'm not ready. He's just a few games into it. Maybe he can get going. And again, he's working with the same pieces that they had last year, but obviously that was not a quick fix that they were hoping for. And so that offensive line is going to continue to be a problem. They need to kind of get that addressed. The next coaching staff will,
yeah.
or if Mickey Joseph is retained. But I guess I'm not blown away by the results today. I thought that there was a possibility that you see this. I mean, because we have to acknowledge that this is just a lot to put on Mickey Joseph's plate. He tried to push some
Joseph's fault,
right?
This week.
But he tried to push some buttons to get Nebraska going, take away the black shirts, change practice schedule, take away music, whatever. And hats off to trying to get that going. And again, it was special preseason or pregame. Just kind of felt the energy was revived, but that is a lot to ask of somebody to come in and face a top 10 team for your first game, and you have 6 days to prepare for it. Exactly. Obviously, you're taking over a position that's not ideal to begin with. That's why the coach was like, "Go."
That's why you're there in the first place.
Yeah, but it just that's why today is such a punch in the gut. Now they're going to have a bye week, and they can kind of figure some things out, and then we'll really start to be able to address and test what Mickey Joseph can bring to the table. But obviously the energy dies down quite a bit as opposed to just even a close game or even a close game through 3 quarters or something like that. It's sad, but because I think the energy lasted a week. We'll see if it can pick up, but at 1-3, it's going to be hard to.
Well, I guess maybe if you want to put a positive spin on this before we get back to the phone line, maybe if you want to put a positive spin on this, I suppose this made no strides or did not set you back for competing for the Big Ten West.
That's true.
I mean, like that was something that I said going into it with you on the pregame show, Bach, was however bad you want to beat Oklahoma, it doesn't hurt you if you lose this game in terms of competing for the Big Ten West, and it really doesn't. However, the possibility or the chances or belief that Nebraska can compete for a Big Ten West division has dropped significantly, not only just because of Scott Frost and them having to make a coaching change and how bad this defense looked in the previous weeks, but how bad they look today. Like the first couple minutes, this game, as Faisal 5 times says on the text line, this game was so fun for 10 minutes. Here's the thing. It was because Nebraska came out, they allowed a first down right out of the gate. And I thought to myself, I was standing at the rail yard like, oh boy, here we go. This could get out of hand quick. And then Nebraska was able to stop them on the next 3 plays. And I thought to myself, okay, there's a renewed energy. Nebraska deferred. They still, despite how bad they looked last week and in the previous weeks, they still decided to put their defense out on the field first. They got a stop. They forced a punt. They actually fielded the punt.
Yeah.
And then they're able to score a touchdown. You're like, okay, they came ready to play today. And then you have a horrible on the very next possession for Oklahoma. Once again, week after week, a horrible pursuit angle by the defensive back, Miles Farmer. Horrible. And Dylan Gabriel gets loose for a 61-yard touchdown. All right, how's Nebraska going to respond? They just fall apart. It was the one time today for 3.5 quarters after that first possession offensively for Nebraska where they got hit in the gut and they just fell down. just did not respond.
Well, and I think
their next 3 drives, 16 plays for 3 yards.
Yeah, it got really bad. But it became apparent there after a while. And I think Brent Venables kind of picked up on this. Maybe they, I guess go back and watch that first drive, see if they were bringing pressure. But it became very apparent at some point that if you bring pressure, they have superior athletes, and Nebraska's offensive line is clueless / lack of athleticism to handle it.
Somebody says on the text line, positive spin. Are you kidding me? Against the second team, we were competitive. I don't want to be sitting here and just dog on Nebraska. So I am going to try to find a somewhat of a positive spin, because for 4 weeks or even for 4 years, what have we been doing? Talking about how bad it is. Like, it's not fun. This is horrible.
Yeah,
this is deflating. I'm going to be hard to find a positive. I'm going to tell it how it is. The offensive line is atrocious. Nebraska continued to shoot themselves in the foot, whether it was false start penalties or losing possession of the football. It's same thing over and over and over again. And it's like as so many people have said, the offensive line, you're not focusing on it. Like that is where this whole thing starts. No matter who you ask, Bryce Benhart, and I hate to call out guys, but Bryce Benhart needs to put a hand on somebody. How many times in the first quarter, in the first couple of quarters, Casey Thompson was sacked 4 times in the first 15 minutes of game time.
Yeah.
I mean, when you go back to previous years, whatever Adrian Martinez did at the end of the games with turnovers and things like that, those are his fault. But it shows that no matter who you put back there at quarterback, if you don't have some little bit of a quarterback run in your game plan, you have no shot. Because this offensive line is not sustainable.
Well, and that was the danger with the whole plan going in to begin with, though. I mean, again, this has all been calculated in a long-term plan for Nebraska, and the concerns that you had in the offseason about not building that offensive line, like Dominique said, or getting a non-mobile quarterback. And, he's mobile enough. He had 3 rushing touchdowns. But you could see today, even Purdy did a better job of evading and would do a better job of evading the rush. He can kind of get pretty stuck in his ways back there and get pretty hit. I mean, I should say, stuck in his footing. That this plan, that's why the whole plan was a bit odd to me, is you have a bad offensive line. Let's take the run game element out of it. That can make you pretty one-dimensional, especially if you can't get the traditional run game going. To your Big Ten West point, though, by the way, too.
Hey, I'm trying. I'm grasping at straws.
I know.
I'm grasping at straws.
I'm just saying the problem
the
problem is that it's not that Nebraska impresses. It's that the rest of the Big Ten West looks worse.
That's where it's at. Because, you have Northwestern, who's on the – I don't know if they're still –
They lost.
They lost to Southern Illinois.
They lost to 0-2 Southern Illinois.
At home.
The Salukis. That's a team that beat Nebraska, though. So again, it is rough going right now for Nebraska
Purdue
football.
Was up at 9-3 to Syracuse, and Dino Babers, who I'm surprised has not gotten fired yet. And you have these Big Ten West games. Wisconsin lost at home last week to Washington State. Minnesota looks like the best team in the Big Ten West right now.
And they haven't played anybody.
But you could argue, has Nebraska before today?
No.
Had Nebraska? I've tweeted this out before, and I keep saying it. How enjoyable is it going to be when Nebraska just beats the teams they're supposed to beat? We go out on a Saturday against Buffalo, against Georgia Southern, against Akron, and say, yep, we have confidence, a full amount of confidence in our guys to do their job, and walk away from this one saying, listen, we did what we were supposed to do. Don't celebrate a win, because obviously there's always room for improvement. But I would welcome a 35-7 win over Akron right now, where Nebraska then gets away from it, and you don't have guys, when they get called for a pass interference, still standing up and celebrating that they made an incomplete pass. Because guess what? You didn't look back at the football. You didn't do the basic fundamental things that you've needed to do all year long. And that's a part that all is a big part of why this defense is horrible and why this offensive line is horrible. And I hate to keep dogging on them, but I would welcome a 35-7 win over Akron right now, where they walked away from it. And we know the coach would, like Mickey Joseph would, because we know how Mickey Joseph operates in his short time here in Nebraska. And once again, as Bach and I have prefaced it, we can't blame this loss on Mickey Joseph, right? And I would fully expect quite a few changes, both coaching, personnel, day-to-day operation changes here in the next 2 weeks with the bye week.
Yeah.
But man, it just tells you the fan base. I think Joel Klatt said it perfectly on the broadcast, which shout out to Joe Klatt for picking up for Gus Johnson under the weather. But before we get back to the phone lines, this fan base is getting tested, and their loyalty is getting tested, and it's heart-wrenching.
Well, and that's why this
it is deflating.
And shout out, by the way, to the fan base for sticking through. It was like 42-7, and I know there's a lot of people that left, but just as compared to around the nation, they actually sat there and watched a lot of it. So shout out to them. But again, this next hire is just going to be so crucial for Nebraska football, obviously, moving forward.
We want to talk about it in a little bit,
and
here.
we will. But what it's just like when you watch a football game. You make a mistake, that's fine. You just got to brush it off and keep going, but you can't compound your mistakes. And when you look at coaching hires now, you've compounded your mistakes with Mike Riley and obviously now Scott Frost. Can't miss on this third one because then you're talking about a decade of really being in the doldrums. So we'll see what they do, and obviously there's a lot of talk about that. But it's a very crucial time in Nebraska athletics, especially. It hurts a little bit more that this was Oklahoma. It hurts that 100%. This is your rival. This is a game. Images of greatness of Nebraska and Oklahoma obviously meeting on the field. And this is the lasting image that they'll get of you, and until your next out-of-conference matchup.
I mean, let's be real here, Buck. How many times is Nebraska gonna just fall apart on national television in front of everybody's eyes?
Well, to be fair to the Scott Frost era, they kept a lot of games close.
They did.
This was like a throwback to the Pelini era, kind of. But
I don't know. Like I think about Big Noon in 2020 that they got blown out on the road at Ohio State. You have
college game day. Yeah.
I guess when a lot of eyes are on you, Northwestern, you didn't take care of business. Illinois, you didn't take care of business. Like you've had opportunities, and Nebraska's going to keep having opportunities with a lot of eyeballs on them. Whether it's in a week 0 matchup, whether it's on a Friday night, like that Rutgers game versus Nebraska. There's going to still be a lot of eyeballs because that's what Nebraska does. They draw eyes to their product. They might be drawing fewer eyes because of how poor they're playing, because there is points. I mean, and I got tweeted at a couple times. We got into plenty of texts as well that fans think this is unwatchable.
This was a turn the channel game. It early in the second quarter that on national television. That's why I say it reminds me of a Pelini game, but it's that's how it was the last few years he was there, and it's just a return to that feeling. And you're right, it happened a few times under Riley, happened a few times under Frost, but it's for all the hype, for all the excitement. Again, if they could have kept this thing close, there would have been just a lot of energy moving forward for Nebraska football, both locally and even nationally, with a new belief in Mickey Joseph. And again, not Mickey Joseph's fault, but this does make it considerably more difficult for him to regain and get that energy back for this football team and in the fan base in totality. I mean, you think about Trev Alberts and the obstacles they're going to have selling seats moving forward. We'll see. I mean, the Husker fan base is incredible, but
they're not sold out.
They're not sold out yet.
Let's go back to the Honda of Lincoln hotline. I believe, is this Tim on the Honda of Lincoln hotline? All right, Tim is.
This is Brian.
Oh, Brian. Okay, sorry, Brian. We got the numbers mixed up. What's on your mind? I appreciate you being patient, man.
That's all right. So, I was just watching this game mercilessly. I was trying to get flashbacks. I was thinking of Eric Shenander. I was like, man, this guy really reminds me of Kevin Cosgrove to a sense. Well, wait a second. I mean, he actually made him look like James Leonard at this point in time. I mean, it was pathetic.
Yeah.
I mean, that was not good. I mean, you guys talked about that here just a couple minutes ago. Listen to you as on hold. I mean, I watched things all the way through. I was in the heyday of fans and everything. I mean, I left and I said, hey, you know what? I'm going to Ivy. I'm not going to watch this anymore. Yeah. I mean, it was not good. Yeah. And, I mean, the other thing, too, I'm kind of thinking about is, this performance with the coaching search. I mean, people who are under consideration, do they start looking at this and be like, man, I don't want that job? I mean, does that make it harder? I mean, for them to bring people in? I mean, what do you guys think?
Thank you, Brian. I appreciate the call. I would say this. I don't necessarily think it makes it harder, and I don't think you're going to have that issue of, oh gosh, I don't want to ruin my career here, because no coach every coach that is going to be considered for the job, all the way from Urban Meyer to Matt Campbell to Lance Leipold at Kansas, is going to sit back and say, I have confidence in myself as a competitor to be able to turn this around. And it's at a place like Nebraska. And also, as sad as it is to say, sit back and ask yourself what the expectation at Nebraska is.
Or what it's going to be the worse they look
Exactly.
as it goes along.
Exactly.
Basically, the worse they do as the
with
season
a new
goes.
coach, is it next year? Is the expectation a national title? That's what it is at Oklahoma.
Right.
Like we talked to, so Bach, I talked to Chris Plank of the Sooners Radio Network this week, and he told me that the expectation with Brent Venables was higher than it ever had been with Lincoln Riley. Why? Because Brent Venables came in and said, we're going to do a couple things. Bob Stoops, you're going to lead me through this. There's nobody that knows the Oklahoma Sooners landscape better than you do.
Mm-hmm.
So he allowed Bob Stoops to kind of guide him through the early process, which is very valuable. Number two, he said this has always been a program driven by the players. Brought all the former players back. Every former player, they have like 6 or 7 former players as coaches on their staff.
Yeah.
Jeff Lebby, as an offensive coordinator, man, they're set up well if they're able to hold that staff together for the SEC, because Jeff Lebby's a guy who has been an offensive coordinator in the SEC with Ole Miss last season, and Brent Venables, as great of a defensive mind as he is, that you got the complete package. They're going to be able to compete if they are able to compete and I guess play possibly in playoff games. Like if they are able to keep things together, they are going to be a complete football team. And Nebraska is a bad football team right now, but give credit where credit's due. Oklahoma came in, took the air out of the stadium by the end of the first quarter, and it was never in doubt.
Yeah, and I think that's part of it, too. I think there is this kind of unknown about Oklahoma coming into the game. Are they going to continue with the success of Lincoln Riley? Haven't really been tested. Is this defense for real? And can Brent Venables, make a porous defense really good all of a sudden? And, it's hard to say, again, with all the changes going on, but you have to admit that Nebraska's offense has put up some pretty good numbers the first 3 games. And for Oklahoma's defense to do this, I do think that that number 6 ranking is a little bit more respected now for Oklahoma getting a win here in Lincoln on national TV. Not just a win, a blowout. I mean, again, they could have named their score there. But for Nebraska, they're just so far away from that. And I think that when you think about the expectations for the coach coming in, it's not going to be anything near. It's going to be a kind of a slow build. It's going to have to be because unless you make and maybe with the transfer portal things that happen these days in college football, it could be quicker than the usual slow build. But I just don't think the expectations are going to be so hot or so high, almost regardless of who the coach is in year one.
So a little bit of breaking news from Mickey Joseph's press conference. We will have the audio in the next segment here. He has announced that Teddy Prohaska is done for the year and is going to redshirt this season. So this is going to be the second time that Teddy Prohaska, and as bad as it is to say, Bach, in the small sample size that we've seen Teddy Prohaska, he's been Nebraska's best offensive lineman, but not by a wide margin.
Right. He didn't look like he was back to what he was last year.
Exactly, which we saw in a very, very small capacity last season. This season, it actually looked like he may have regressed, which he did talk in fall camp about. There's a difference between getting back healthy and getting back into game shape.
Yeah.
And there's a big difference there. But I just think that when you look at this offensive line, it is going to be, once again, year after year, the bugaboo of this program. Let's go back to the phone line. I apologize, caller. Who's this?
This is Tim.
Tim, what's up, man? Appreciate you being patient. What's on your mind?
Hey, not much. Thanks for taking my call, guys. Nick, I can tell you're fired up, man. I can feel the passion. You blend in with the rest of the Husker fans. Mm-hmm. My dad and I, we were at the game.
I'm sorry.
I told him when, thanks. I told him when we were there and leaving the game, it's going to be a long season. Yeah. It really is. It's becoming more and more evident that we just do not have the rosters, not only in our starting lineup, but behind those guys to bring in any depth to rotate those guys. It's totally It's very obvious on our offensive line and our defensive line. We don't have the foundation. At this point, guys, let's just be optimistic. And I'm just curious, do you guys think, can Mickey get at least 2 wins under his belt? We've got Indiana and we've got Rutgers. The rest of the games, I'm going to cross my fingers, but do you guys think he can at least put this team together to just get us 2 wins and try to give this team some sort of hope that we don't lose kids that are currently here? Anthony Grant, we cannot lose him.
A.J. Allen.
Casey, I would love to see stay. And the other ones are the guys that are going to, the guys that are possibly coming here. Are they going to see what Mickey's going to do and say, nope, we don't want this? What do you guys think? Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Tim. And here's the thing, Buck. When we talk about potential of losing athletes to the transfer portal, Sip actually had a tweet that said something along the lines of I bet 70 plus teams right now are actively recruiting A.J. Allen.
Yeah, I saw that.
Right. And I sat back and I just kind of took a deep breath, like, oh boy, because, you're more concerned about losing A.J. Allen and you're more concerned about losing throw a young receiver in there like Victor Jones Jr. You're more working now. Obviously we haven't seen him, so there's been that lack of production, but it's like, you're sitting here going, I don't know how bad it's going to get, because it seems like it's gotten as bad as it could be. And then each week it gets worse and worse.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's naturally going to happen. I mean, we just buckle up for this thing. As Tim said, it's really hard to imagine, and this is hard to say as a Husker fan. It's hard to imagine this team not, exceeding the 3-win mark probably at this point. Now, again, to your point earlier, the Big Ten West doesn't look good. Iowa still hasn't scored like 10 points in a game. So, I mean,
you could sit here and say Nebraska might win 2 more games because of how bad the Big Ten West is, not because of how good Nebraska is.
Yeah. So, I mean, I still think they have a chance in many of these games. We'll see how Minnesota looks. They might be an outlier. Michigan's probably an outlier. But many of these games,
Michigan's good.
Michigan's going to be good.
Michigan's very good.
Wisconsin's probably going to be Wisconsin, get better as the season goes on. That might be another game with the history there that I don't necessarily expect them to be in at this point. But, it's a long season. But I mean, I guess to your point, though, if there is a coaching transition beyond Mickey Joseph, there's going to be probably more departures than there would be if Mickey stays. That's not a reason alone to keep Mickey, but it is just the where we are in college football. And yeah, it would help to keep a guy here and there, but if you have a couple 3-9 seasons, it's not the worst thing to start from scratch, unfortunately, just because there's not a lot to build on there. Not saying, like, obviously Anthony Grant and A.J. Allen would be great guys to keep, but I mean, you guys got to do what's best for themselves. You
cannot operate your program with the thought process of we got to operate just to keep guys here.
Right.
You can't do that. Because then you lose accountability and you lose responsibility and things like that. Once again, 402-464-5685, the Honda Lincoln hotline, the Starter Heyman text line. Qdoba guy says this, shout out to Bach. Bach's the only one who doesn't have to walk back on all of his comments from this last week. Everyone else at the station stopped drinking the Kool-Aid. So, yeah, nice job, Bach. No,
I'd rather be wrong than right, but I mean, I haven't definitely swam in the Kool-Aid this offseason, or but it kind of is what it is.
Mickey Joseph said, "This is on me, not my players, not my assistant coaches. I've got to accept responsibility." So, update around the country: Syracuse took the lead over Purdue with 7 seconds left in the game.
Darn it.
So there goes Purdue. Let's go back to the phone line here. 402-464-5685. Caller, who's this? Hello.
Hello?
Hey, caller, who's this?
This is Gordon.
Gordon, how's it going, man? Appreciate you being patient.
No problem.
What's on your mind?
My problem is what I'm seeing with the coaches and the players is they gave up on tradition.
How so?
It just seems like, oh, we're losing. Okay, whatever. And they just give up and they just fold the towel in and just play because, hey, we're here on the field. Might as well.
Yeah. Appreciate it, Gordon. Appreciate the thought. Thanks for being patient.
There were several times, admittedly, even down 28-7, there's a chance to score at the end of the half, get the ball first, and they just couldn't capitalize on any of those opportunities. But again, at the same time, they were just athletically overwhelmed at a certain point, and schematically. I mean, this is partially on the coaches too, and I'm glad Mickey Joseph takes the whole blame. That's what a coach should do. But I don't know. It's always hard to measure effort, especially when you're outmatched.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and get to break. We'll hear from Mickey Joseph on the other side of this commercial break. This is the Husker Afterparty Postgame Show on the Ticket. Make sure you chime into the show, 402-464-5685 on the Honda of Lincoln hotline or the Starter Heyman text line. You can also add your thoughts on the Starter Heyman Jewelers video stream, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. Now, down the road, once again, we'll get to Mickey Joseph. We'll have that talent discussion. Is it a talent issue? Is it a development issue? Let's have that discussion after the break here as well. But want to hear your calls, want to hear your thoughts, and we'll also obviously address the whole coaching discussion down the road here in a little bit. You're listening to the Husker Afterparty Postgame Show on 93.7 The Ticket. Nick Sainer, Jake Bachhoven. We'll be right back on The Ticket.
Welcome in to the Husker.
Bauer Infrastructure is a new name from a well-established brand, and they're paving the way to progress. And they're hiring. Bauer Infrastructure is hiring truck drivers, carpenters, truck mechanics, and equipment operators. And they have industry-leading benefits to maintain a work-life balance. Bauer offers paid time off and paid holidays, a matching 401k plan, medical, dental, vision, life, and disability insurance, a clothing allowance, and more. Start your new career today by applying at BauerInfrastructure.com.
Action Plumbing, Heating, Air, and Electric brings exciting career opportunities for you or someone you know. They are now hiring plumbers, electricians, and HVAC techs and installers to continually build their professional team. They offer competitive pay and full benefits packages that include health, dental, vision, PTO, and 401k options. Action has created a positive team environment for over 50 years. Apply online at actionlincoln.com.
Hey, who caught that ball? That field goal was good, right? Is the scoreboard fuzzy to anyone else?
Dude, you have got to get your eyes checked, man.
If you're noticing that the game is getting a little tougher to follow, it might be time for a checkup at Premier Vision. They have state-of-the-art equipment, a variety of frames, and great lens options. Visit Premier Vision today, just south of Van Dorn at 84th and Firethorn.
Trendy or traditional, Gary Michaels Clothiers specializes in men's tailored clothing. Off the rack or custom made to measure, there is simply no better shopping experience. Offering designer furnishings, sportswear, shoes, outerwear, and accessories for a man always concerned at looking his best. With world-class tailoring and personal service, all makes Gary Michaels Clothiers Nebraska's premier store for men. Come visit us now at Village Gardens, south of 56th and Pine Lake Road in Lincoln.
We're still as busy as we've ever been. Across the country, you may see a small slowdown, but in Lincoln, Nebraska, we're not slowing down.
Bob Benish is the founder and president of Aspen Builders, online at aspenbuildersinc.com.
Our Southwest Lincoln development is just going great as we keep growing in Southwest Lincoln. Down the road, we'll have a new school, so that's exciting. We also have a new development out in East Lincoln over by Hillcrest Country Club. Just a real neat subdivision because it features trees, great views. If you're concerned about interest rates, many lenders in town offer extended lock periods. So it's worth contacting a lender and asking them about an extended lock. That's a big deal.
Make your dream home a reality and call Aspen Builders at 423-6811. Online at aspenbuildersinc.com. Your home is waiting at Aspen Builders.
Lincoln's best place to meet, eat, and compete.
Bowling,
check. Arcade, check. Laser tag, check. Mini golf, check. Sand volleyball, cornhole, bocce, food, drinks, check. The newly renovated Sun Valley Lanes and Games has something fun to offer for guests of all ages. Win prizes in the arcade or challenge your friends in one of the many attractions. Plan a night of fun by reserving your spot online at sunvalleylanes.com.
Sun Valley. This is Lincoln's home for sports talk on the FM dial. Also online at theticketfm.com. On the internet. KNTK FM Firth, 93.7 The Ticket.
Look at your car. It's filthy and probably has a few dings and nicks all over it. Don't be that guy. Get it upgraded and repaired at Renew Your Auto. At Renew Your Auto, they offer tons of services: ceramic coating, window tinting, paintless dent repair, washes and details, bed liners, body shop, and more. Where can you go to get services like that all in one place? Schedule your appointment today at renewyourauto.com. See what Renew can do for you.
Get an immediate look back at the game from the people who know it best. It's the Tanner's Postgame Show and the Final Word live from Tanner's Bar and Grill at 30th and Yankee Hill. Hear from former players and national champions like Jay Foreman, Rashawn Jackson, and Aaron Davis and see what they saw in that day's game. It's the Tanner's Postgame Show and the Final Word, live and in person, home or away at Tanner's Bar and Grill, brought to you by Bauer Infrastructure. Only here on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Another packed fall sports season means it's time to get to N Street Drive-In to fill up on all your beverage needs. Right now, they have tons of Oktoberfest beers, and you could check out their Odell Brewing, Imperium Brewing, and Sam Adams selections as their beers of the month. Also, make sure to download the new N Street Drive-In app to order online and to set up delivery right to your front door. And don't forget their top-notch crowler fill system. N Street Drive-In, your one-stop beverage stop at 1801 O Street. There's nothing quite like the Mercado by Certified Piedmontese Beef. The Mercado offers unique ingredients you can't find anywhere else, open every day from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. The full-service butcher shop and retail store is wonderful for meat lovers with their exclusive Certified Piedmontese beef and assorted sausages, plus other quality meats, including pork, chicken, and a wide range of the freshest seafood. Plus, every Friday from 11 to 2, the Mercado serves up the best lunch in town on their Friday Feast menu. Stop in at the Mercado today at 84th and Havelock or visit their website at cpmercado.com to see current deals.
Back to the Husker Afterparty Postgame Show on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
This is on me. I got to accept responsibility for it, and I have. We're going to get better next week. We got 8 games left. We're going to get ready to win some games. I guess I didn't do enough last week to get them ready. I got to get back, and we got to do some individual work, some more drill work next week, less teamwork, and get some fundamentals straightened up. We got to continue to tackle. I didn't do enough tackling. I got to do more. I got to get them better in that part.
I will say there's Mickey Joseph on kind of just this last week. I will say it is nice, refreshing maybe to hear a new voice. Also, I enjoy hearing specifics. Tell me that you have a plan, right? Tell me what you want to work on going in, what you didn't work on well enough last week. Because for so many years it was just, we didn't execute well enough. Yeah, we know they came out in a different front we weren't prepared for. Here we go. Here's Mickey Joseph saying, I didn't teach them well enough last week. We're going to do less team drills and do more drills, less teamwork. And so it's just like things like that is a little bit refreshing on a new voice, I suppose. Let's go to the Honda Lincoln Hotline. We got Bruce on the line. Bruce, appreciate you for being patient, man. What's on your mind?
Hey, this is Bruce from Oregon, Husker fan. I just want to say one thing. I want players on this team. I don't care if they lose the rest of their games. I want players to show up that want to win. I love the Huskers. Win or loss, but these guys today, they look like they just didn't care to be out there. And it kind of upset me because I know this team's rebuilding. This is Nebraska. When you come to Nebraska, you gotta play hard and you gotta want to win because it's a winning organization. So go Big Red. Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it, Bruce. Thank you for hanging on with us. Let's go right back to the Honda Lincoln Hotline. We got Larry on the line. Larry, hello.
Hi there. How are you?
Just dandy. What's on your mind?
Oh, yeah, I'm just calling to say, I really appreciate Mickey Joseph and what he's doing. And I think he can help do some things to get the team better for this year. But I have to say, we were at the game, and I never saw so many opposing fans come up into our section as I did today. So I'm kind of disappointed in the Nebraska fans that sold their tickets to them and not support the team. But the team-wise, I know they try very hard, but I think our offensive line is the downfall. And I was wondering why, when we recruit, what's wrong that the same players are in there that are not playing very well, causing penalties, and they're still in there. Give the other guys a chance to see what they do. To me, they can't do any worse.
Yeah.
But I think these coaches are going to try. I think we're going to improve over the year. And I just, want the team to win, and I know everybody else does too. And I think it's all about player development, and we've been lacking in that ever since Steve Peterson started this when he let Frank Solich go.
Yeah, appreciate it, Larry. Thanks for chiming in. Okay, so to Larry's point, there's two things that I think two angles you can look at this. One is it speaks to the lack of depth in Nebraska's locker room at multiple positions, especially offensive line, especially not numbers, but depth.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And maybe the confidence that this staff has. Or another angle is the staff's inability to develop those guys. And it could be, I truly think it's a little bit of both. I truly do. I think in recent years, especially maybe even heading into this season, lack of development's huge, right? You look around the Big Ten West, and Iowa is ranked number 1 out of every single Power 5 team. So every team in the country, I suppose, in taking lower level recruits and transitioning them into draft picks. They are number 1 in the country. And believe it or not, draft picks and NFL caliber players win you games.
They often do. And
it's just like there are connector, like there are dots that are connected to how to find success in the Big Ten West. Well, and I tweeted this out today during the game. Nebraska's offensive line, we always say to be in the Big Ten, you have to have a strong offensive line. You have to be strong in the trenches, and that's accurate. But Nebraska's offensive line, from what I saw today, would be bad in any conference. Whether in any Power 5 conference, Nebraska's offensive line would be bad because you have a guy in you could throw any name in there right now who the ball snapped and they are so late to react, to move their feet. It looks like they got cinder blocks around their ankles because they are just so slow. And it like you, once again, we've talked about in the break block, like Adrian Martinez, you just insert any quarterback that has some component of running would have been beneficial today. And in a lot of games, because Casey Thompson, there's still no doubt after this game, he didn't throw an interception today, but there's still no doubt in my mind that he's a quality quarterback. But you got to give him more than 2 seconds.
Yeah, and when he gets rattled, he starts to become quite, not as accurate. So, which is fair. I mean, because he took some lickings today. But yeah, I mean, it's development. It's development along those front lines, and that's been a problem, obviously, at Nebraska for quite some time. But specifically here lately, I mean, you look at the players that have kind of had success. They're kind of freak athletes, like a Cam Jurgens or a Cam Taylor-Britt. They're gonna develop
Washington,
one way or the other.
You could even say Anthony Grant in this situation, right?
Well, these are rentals.
Well,
like
exactly,
Samari's a rental. Samari Toure is a rental.
Yeah, exactly.
Anthony Grant, now Trey Palmer.
You're
Casey.
You're 100% right.
Yeah.
and maybe that's the way that Nebraska is going to have to orchestrate their program.
Well, they need a developer
this year.
They need,
But so that's what's interesting, Bach. And I guess, you know what? Let's go to the phone line. We'll expand on that because I know where we both want to go with that discussion point. Let's go to Paul on the Honda Lincoln Hotline. Paul, what's on your mind?
Oh, a whole lot right now.
Let's hear it.
I don't know why we even keep any of the defensive staff around. I know Rude is a Nebraska guy, and he was great for us, but I haven't seen anything out of our linebackers that make me want to keep him. The defensive staff should be gone. I don't see the point in dragging it out anymore. I don't know if that's even something you can do in college football. But the biggest one I want to call, and I don't know if I've heard a lot of people say this, what is active ball doing for us? Have we gotten bigger, faster, stronger, anything? Because you guys just said about our offensive line. They can't even move. Nash Hubmaker looks like a literal polar bear out there stuck in ice. I don't know what – Ty Robinson took a huge step back this year. None of our guys are physical. Why are we having Garrett Nelson line up as a defensive end? He was lined up as a defensive end. That defensive staff just needs to go. I don't get it myself.
Thank you for the call, Paul. And here's what I'll say. And this is just not, I don't know anything. I don't have any insider information when I say this. I wouldn't be surprised to see coaching staff changes in the next couple of weeks on that defensive side. And rightfully so, because we mentioned it quite a bit after Trev Albert's press conference last Sunday, which, man, this week has really just blended together with everything going on. But we heard it from Trev Albert's press conference last Sunday, Bach. Very rarely do you hear an athletic director come out and say, whatever decision that he wants to make, he being Mickey Joseph, the interim head coach, the athletic department backs him 100%. Very rarely do you hear that, give that kind of power given to the interim head coach. A lot of times the interim head coach is a linebackers coach, a wide receivers coach, things like that. But that meant something to me. The way that Trev Alberts, and I guess I could pull up the clip if I really needed to. But it was something along the lines of unsolicited. We did not ask him, we being the media, did not ask him, hey, if Mickey Joseph wants to make a change, does he have to jump through some hoops? Does he have to come through you? We did not ask him any of those questions. It was straight up unsolicited. And he said, because it was to the question of, was anybody else other than Scott Frost relieved of their duties last Sunday? And Trev said something along the lines of, only Scott, but let me be very clear. Mickey Joseph is going to be the head coach, and whatever decisions he makes, we will back him 100%. Something along those lines. Obviously, I'm paraphrasing, but that was it. And that those words carry a lot of weight when you are in the middle of a dumpster fire season with an athletic director like Trev Alberts.
It does,
because Trev Alberts uses only purposeful words.
Yeah, and I think that we will see some. I mean, 580 yards again after giving up 640 whatever it was last week to Georgia Southern, and again Oklahoma. It needs to be noted, Oklahoma could have scored 70 points and having 750 yards of total offense. They called off the horses, similar to kind of the Ohio State games of the past that. You could just see it. It was just not there. It's like they're playing a different game out there. But I guess my point is they've already elevated a guy to the wide receiver position.
That's exactly where do you go?
There's only so many. Right, there's only so many analysts that you can elevate, and then at some point, this is not ideal at all. No. To have a coaching change during the season so early on, we felt like maybe it's salvageable, but it's really only salvageable if you kind of keep this thing together. If you completely kick it all off the rails and just, then it looks like you're just so disorganized from the beginning. And that's what I think as the season wears on, the worse it gets, the more it looks like this decision to keep Scott Frost around for another year is just really might set back the program a little bit more. And I understand
maybe
that's not all on Trev. There's a lot of people that play into it, but Trev's the ultimate man here and the guy with the ultimate power. Ultimate power, you can argue maybe that, donors or whatever else plays into it. But my point is the administration. If I just don't know. I mean, I almost can see the moves happening because it's gotten so bad. But man, this has just been, I said this in the offseason, and even Trev kind of went against it, probably not my words, but somebody else, is that this kind of just is just a science experiment. They're throwing a lot of things at the wall and hoping some of it sticks. A lot of it's not sticking now, and it's just,
and you don't,
this could get messier if you fire a bunch of guys rather than trying to keep some sort of unity and some sort of belief that they knew what was going on 2 weeks ago, and now they're trying to pitch to you. Oh, now we know. Now we're the guys to listen to. When 2 weeks ago they were listening to you, and everything's changed.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was saying earlier in the postgame show, was that there's 8 games left. You have 8 games left. This season is not even half over.
No,
and we're having these conversations.
Not even the conference play.
And like I said earlier, Bach, you think it's you are at the bottom of the well. You think that you are at rock bottom each week. But each week, you and I find ourselves right here in this studio saying somehow, some way it got worse and it got messier. And here's just so I don't misquote Trev Alberts or anything like that. Here's that quote talking about Mickey Joseph and Scott Frost.
Just Coach Frost. Again, Mickey Joseph is the head coach, and if he chooses to make some of those additional changes, we will support those changes as well. But I am not aware of any of those that he anticipates at this time.
So there he is. So there's Trev Alberts verbatim there on kind of Mickey Joseph and kind of the decision-making ability that he has as the interim head coach. Let's go back to the phone lines. We got Russ on the line. Russ, happy Saturday. Hope you're doing all right. What's on your mind?
I don't even know where to begin, guys. Long-time listener. I might call once in a while during the week, chat with you. I'm just going to make this very clear what my view is. Mm-hmm. And there's no way in the world you can change my mind. Okay. So don't try. With all due respect, we have tried everything else. Okay. It has not worked. It is time for Nebraska to decide whether they want to be in the Big Ten or not. Trev Alberts needs to decide either go big or shut the front door. I don't want to hear about player development with some guy from Kansas or Iowa State. I don't want to hear any of that. I want to hear Urban Meyer is walking through that door, and I don't care what it costs Nebraska. And I don't want to hear anybody's high and mighty moral values on what his background is, because we choose to select certain political people based on what they tell us they're going to do, and we don't care about their background. But all of a sudden, when it comes to Nebraska football, all us high and mighty people here, and I count myself a big Husker fan and a church-going person, think that Urban Meyer, we're better than him. Mm-hmm. He's beneath us. He can't come in here because we're all shiny and new. You know, God love Bob Devaney. He wasn't perfect. Tom, we love him. He swept shit underneath the door.
We have to cut him off there. Sorry, Russ.
You get his point, though.
Yeah, no, we do. We have to cut you off there. Since we broke FCC violations, we got to cut you off there,
right.
Man. Sorry, Russ. But no,
and it was, I don't think he cursed on purpose. But
no, it was not on purpose. But it was a good phone call. Yeah. And Bach, should we take a break and dissect this discussion on the next segment?
I think that's a wise idea.
Should we do that?
So I'll take a breath here, guys. Let's all take a breath.
We'll all take a breath. We will reset, reorganize ourselves, and we'll have the Urban Meyer and coaching discussion after the break. 402-464-5685, the Honda Lincoln Hotline, the Starter Heyman text line. We'll be right back on the Husker Afterparty Postgame Show. Nick Sander, Jake Bachhoven with you guys on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Get an immediate look back at the game from the people who know it best. It's the Tanner's Postgame Show and the Final Word live from Tanner's Bar and Grill at 30th and Yankee Hill. Hear from former players and national champions like Jay Foreman, Rashawn Jackson, and Aaron Davis and see what they saw in that day's game. It's the Tanner's Postgame Show and the Final Word, live and in person, home or away at Tanner's Bar and Grill, brought to you by Bauer Infrastructure. Only here on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Lincoln's best place to meet, eat, and compete.
Bowling,
check. Arcade, check. Laser tag, check. Mini golf, check. Sand volleyball, cornhole, bocce, food, drinks, check, 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 check. The newly renovated Sun Valley Lanes and Games has something fun to offer for guests of all ages. Win prizes in the arcade or challenge your friends in one of the many attractions. Plan a night of fun by reserving your spot online at sunvalleylanes.com.
Sun Valley.
Guys, a couple months ago, I told you how I lost 36 pounds by taking part in the 10-week challenge at Farrell's Extreme Body Shaping. Well, now, after another 10 weeks, I'm down over 60 pounds, and I'm feeling stronger than I can ever remember. Farrell's uses a trusted method that combines kickboxing, strength training, nutrition, and personalized coaching to set you up for success. The next 10-week challenge begins on October 1st, and you can join for half off by mentioning the ticket. Head to fxblincoln.com to learn more and join the 10-week challenge with Farrell's Extreme Body Shaping for 50% off.
Action Plumbing, Heating, Air, and Electric is the call I make when I have a need for plumbing services. Whether it's for my home or office, if I need a repair to a water heater, softener, or even my garbage disposal, I know I can count on Action to help. In one simple call, their amazing customer service team promptly schedules a service call, often getting to my needs within a day. Action delivers honest quality services we can count on. To learn more, visit actionlincoln.com.
Hey, who caught that ball? That field goal was good, right? Is the scoreboard fuzzy to anyone else?
Dude, you have got to get your eyes checked, man.
If you're noticing that the game is getting a little tougher to follow, it might be time for a checkup at Premier Vision. They have state-of-the-art equipment, a variety of frames, and great lens options. Visit Premier Vision today, just south of Van Dorn at 84th and Firethorn. Empire Fence and Netting in Waverly is now hiring for several positions. They're looking for a fence installer for both commercial and residential, for local projects, and ones that require travel. They also have openings for operators, dirt work, welding positions, and applicants with CDLs are very desirable. If you're looking for a locally operated business that provides excellent work for customers and great benefits and care for its employees, email info@empire-fence.com or give them a call at 402-682-7658. Empire Fence and Netting.
Trendy or traditional, Gary Michaels Clothiers specializes in men's tailored clothing. Off the rack or custom made to measure, there is simply no better shopping experience. Offering designer furnishings, sportswear, shoes, outerwear, and accessories for a man always concerned at looking his best. With world-class tailoring and personal service, all makes Gary Michaels Clothiers Nebraska's premier store for men. Come visit us now at Village Gardens, south of 56th and Pine Lake Road in Lincoln.
Bauer Infrastructure is a new name from a well-established brand, and they're paving the way to progress. And they're hiring. Bauer Infrastructure is hiring truck drivers, carpenters, truck mechanics, and equipment operators. And they have industry-leading benefits to maintain a work-life balance. Bauer offers paid time off and paid holidays, a matching 401k plan, medical, dental, vision, life, and disability insurance, a clothing allowance, and more. Start your new career today by applying at BauerInfrastructure.com.
Hi, this is Kurt, your shop manager at A1 Automotive here in downtown Lincoln. My promise to you is this: you won't find another automotive repair facility that genuinely cares about you and your vehicle. Our service is outstanding and our customer service is better. Please give me a call for all your automotive repair questions and needs. Call me at 402-477-4660. We were built on small town values, and that shows in how we treat others. A1 Automotive, always honest answers.
If you want to make new floor shopping easier, come to O Street Carpet. Hi, I'm Steve Carper. Our flooring professionals can help you choose the best flooring for you, your family, and your budget. We eliminate the confusion. Even better, you'll be enjoying your new flooring much sooner. No 6 or 8 week waits. We'll install right away and save you money on installation. Floor shopping made easy every day at O Street Carpet.
O Street Carpet.
1732 O Street. Family owned and operated. Always the best value.
I'm Smokey Bear, and I made an assistant to help you out because only you can prevent wildfires.
Hey, Assistant Smokey Bear. Call me Papa Bear because I'm grilling up dinner. Did you get it?
Yes, good job.
So what should I do with all these coals?
Don't just toss them out. Put them in a metal container because those embers can start a wildfire.
I understand. The stakes are high.
Ha, 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 ha.
Learn more at smokeybear.com.
Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
Back to the Husker Afterparty Postgame Show on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Bring 'em out, bring 'em out. Bring 'em out, bring 'em out. Bring 'em out, bring 'em out.
Back here on the Husker Afterparty Postgame Show, Nick Sander, Jake Bachhoven hanging out with you guys. We'll have about 20 minutes left in the show here before we send it out to Tanner's Bar and Grill, 30th and Yankee Hill. DP and the gang are out there, and they'll give their thoughts, on Nebraska, Oklahoma, as the Huskers lose 49-14. Scored on their first offensive possession of the game and then scored with just a couple minutes left in the fourth quarter. So a lot of just gunk surrounded by 2 possessions of a touchdown. A lot of gunk, a lot of crap in there. All right, 402-464-5685, Honda of Lincoln Hotline, Starter Heyman text line. Let's go to Craig on the Honda of Lincoln Hotline. Craig, appreciate you for being patient over the commercial break. What's on your mind? Craig. All right, Craig is gone. All right, so once again, Craig, if you can hear us, call back. Okay, so here we go. Let's dive down this hole, right, Bach?
Yeah.
It was reported by Dennis Dodd today from CBS Sports that Trev Alberts and Urban Meyer have met to discuss the job. Now, let me preface it with Trev Alberts did say previously this week that he is going to talk to a lot of people. And there's a way here that this conversation between he and Urban Meyer is just a conversation.
Right.
Because Trev Alberts specifically said, just because you hear Trev Alberts talking to XYZ coach doesn't mean he's offered the job to XYZ coach. So I want to preface it with that, as well as when it comes to football and the group of guys that were in Lincoln with Fox Big Noon Kickoff, who would have been the best football mind to talk to about possibly turning around a program, taking steps of what a good head coach is on the field, a head coach, maybe not a person, but a good head coach on the field. Urban Meyer's found a lot of success. And so it could be
makes a lot of sense just to have a conversation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, that caused a lot of thoughts on maybe Urban Meyer has interest in Nebraska. And we're on the same page, Bach, and I want to let you explain it because you explain it a lot better than I do. But Nebraska's in a position right now, and they've put themselves in a position for firing Scott Frost after week 2. They put themselves in a position to be able to do this coaching search. If they decide that Mickey Joseph is not the guy, they've put themselves in a position to where they can take their time. They are the biggest and right now the only job open. And so endless possibilities of what could happen. That's not the case following the season.
Right.
But they've put themselves, Trev Alberts has put this program in a position where if they decide that Mickey Joseph is not going to be the full-time permanent head coach, that they can have conversations, have a plethora of them, be methodical, be meticulous, just like Trev Alberts is, and find the right guy. And if they decide that's Urban Meyer, then great. If they don't, then great. Whatever it is. But they're going to have time. Now, their program, from a program standpoint, might be in the position, and I know you have thoughts on this as well, might be in a position to where they can't take a risk on a lower level guy.
Yeah, I think that's the case. Again, I said, within a game or just within your own program, you can't compound mistakes. Nebraska has compounded mistakes in the coaching hire now twice with Mike Riley and Scott Frost. The book's over. It's done. It's been written. Those are mistakes. Those are bad hires. And, there's different degrees of hires that don't work out. Bo Pelini didn't work out ultimately, but he had 7 years, and
I would argue Bo Pelini worked out, just not off the field.
Well, right, but I mean on the field things kind of got out of hand in the big games, similar to the feeling today. But I mean the point is, like, Bo Pelini, it didn't ultimately work out, but altogether I think you look back and say that's a B- hire. It was fine for 7 years, gave you hope. Got to championship games.
You were a top 25 program for
right.
6 years or whatever. Yeah.
As opposed to the Mike Riley hire where, you had 2 losing seasons and embarrassing losses, and the Scott Frost hire, which you didn't have a winning season. These are like more D-F hires. Yeah. So you can't compound those mistakes. You need to get this one right. And that's why I think that whether it be Mickey Joseph or really anybody else that's kind of fits that billing, I don't know if this is the time for a hire for somebody to kind of learn on the job as a head coach at a job at this level. I think that you've got to go out there and you've got to find and identify somebody that has proven something. Not, I hope that they can become this, or I envision what they're doing that it will become along this way. That's why, to me, the Chris Kleiman, the Matt Campbell hires make sense to me, because they've proven in the Midwest that they can take guys, develop them, which is very important, like we've been talking about. That's what's been missing with Nebraska. Develop 3-star guys and get a good showing out there. All that being said, I've not been, too shy to say this. I think Urban Meyer's just on a different level of what Nebraska can attain. Now, is he interested? Would they be able to get him? I don't know that, but I do know they're not competing with anybody right now.
Exactly.
That's why
his your best time.
That's why his name's directly linked to Nebraska right now. Is there's no other jobs. If who knows what happens? Like Florida State. It's hard to imagine right now, Texas A&M, but just names like that start coming out. That's going to be their biggest name because he's just the biggest name out there, and he just elevates Nebraska so far in my mind above. Like if I hire Chris Kleiman and Matt Campbell, I'll be excited. I think that maybe you can get back to the Pelini era type where you're competing and hopefully get away from But what's the ceiling?
Yeah,
I don't know if I think I'm going to win a national championship in 5 years with Matt Campbell. I think if you hire Urban Meyer, that's where the discussion changes, where the ceiling becomes much higher, and you say, this guy is one of the best coaches of all time. He's already won national titles in 2 different places. That's a move to me that is perfect for the situation you're in, which is an absolute dire on the field product, and you've already compounded your coaching mistakes. You cannot miss on this hire.
That you can't miss. Just to kind of recap Urban Meyer's thing. After 2 seasons at Bowling Green, he took the job at Utah in 2003. In his first year with the Utes, Meyer was named the Mountain West the Mountain West Conference's Coach of the Year with a 10-2 record, the best ever for a coach's first season at Utah. In 2004, Meyer led the undefeated Utes to a BCS bid, something that had not been done by a team from a non-automatically qualifying BCS conference since the formation of the BCS in 1998. He remained at Utah long enough to coach the team to a Fiesta Bowl win over Pittsburgh, capping off the Utes' first perfect season, 12-0 since 1930. Just like that.
Yeah.
In 2 seasons at Utah. At the time, that was in the Mountain West Conference. And we know what Utah is now. We remember Urban Meyer at Florida. We remember Urban Meyer, obviously, at Ohio State as well. I understand that there's off-the-field baggage. And as much as it is bad to say to folks, and is bad, it's not fun to acknowledge, but things are swept under the rug at a lot of places.
Yeah, a lot of off the field baggage.
Not saying Nebraska. I'm not calling out any specific coaching regime. So I'm not. But a lot of things get swept under the rug, good and bad, when you win games, because winning brings on money. And money is the main driver for everything in collegiate athletics.
As we've seen, yeah.
As we've seen.
Unfortunately,
yeah. It's not good. Like I'm not a fan of sitting here in front of you guys and saying it on the radio, saying, yeah, listen, things get swept under the rug all the time, but it doesn't matter. You only hear about them if you're losing. That's all it is.
Yeah. And
when Nebraska, like Bach said, Nebraska's program is in a very fragile state right now. Has been for years. In a very fragile state. And you thought that Scott Frost was going to be able to come in and maybe give it some stability. But now you could argue that it may have gotten worse.
Oh, yeah.
From a fragile / stability standpoint.
And just because even
lost.
longer, it's longer.
You've lost. And you've tacked on years and years and years of losing and losing the same way and maybe doing things the incorrect way. You've tacked years and years and games onto it on already a very long streak of doing those things and not providing results, quality results. And that's why when I said at the top of the show, this fan base is getting tested quite a bit.
Oh yeah.
And it is the fan base, shout them out from the rooftop because they have answered the call time and time again. But how much longer? You have to ask yourself that question. How much longer is this fan base willing to spend close to $200 to go watch your team fall apart 49-14 at Oklahoma?
And that's why I think if you go with
if this isn't a rivalry game and there's $200 a ticket, or even maybe the rivalry aspect probably jacks up the price a little bit more. So Are you comfortable spending $125 if it's Nebraska and USC or Nebraska and Pittsburgh? Are you comfortable spending $125 when a top 25 team comes in here when you've had 5-6 straight years of not answering the call as a program?
Yeah.
Like those are things that Trev Alberts has to take into account when making this next decision. And we both said it in the break, Bach. They're going to hire a third party, a search firm.
Mm-hmm.
This is going to be a true, authentic coaching search. Now, if they come to the decision that Mickey Joseph is that guy, great. If they come to the decision that Urban Meyer is that guy, great. Or whoever it is, fantastic. But they've put themselves in a position now. If you want to put a positive spin on it, if you're Trev Alberts, you have made the decision early enough in the season and made it clear to everybody that money is not a problem at Nebraska and that you have no issue opening up the checkbook. You have to ask yourself, what do you want the expectation to be? And what is the ceiling with whoever you bring in next? What's the ceiling? And if you sit here and say your ceiling is, being a consistent bowl game program, then don't have the expectation of being a national champion contender in 5 years. Because that's where there's a disconnect.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where things kind of fall off the rails.
Because you also have to ask yourself, and I love Nebraska, the program, obviously. I mean, we've been doing this for a long time. But you have to, at some point, ask yourself, how much more does Nebraska bring? And obviously, it is a little bit. But, like, what is Chris Kleiman? What is Matt Campbell?
They're great developers.
But how much
have their spot on the totem pole?
How much does the Nebraska elevate? Like, how much do they see Nebraska? Like, this is my big shot to take my step up from Kansas State to go to Nebraska. At one time, absolutely. Now, I don't know if that's like the huge step that you're looking for. Now, if you pay enough, then it will be, right? But if I'm talking about on the field, just geographic challenges, I don't know if Nebraska's that program anymore. And again, with the Urban Meyer thing, also keeping that in mind, I don't think Urban Meyer's on your radar if he doesn't have that off-field baggage. I think he's probably, a little bit outside of your reach if he doesn't have that off-field baggage. So I think you got to take a swing when it's there.
Let's also be real, Bach. Nebraska, do they have a shot if this position with Urban Meyer? Do they have a chance with Urban Meyer? Let's say Mickey's not the interim. Nebraska's full on looking for a full-time head coach, right? Which they are technically, but in a different spot of the season after the season's concluded and things like that. Nebraska, along with a couple other programs, open up. What's Nebraska's chances of getting a guy like Urban Meyer? That goes back to exactly what we were just talking about. They've put themselves in a position to where they can take their time, do things the correct way, not rush, right? Be meticulous, be methodical, be thorough. As we know, Trev Alberts is a very details-oriented guy. Be thorough. And if at the end of the day, Trev Alberts and this third-party search team believes and feels like Urban Meyer's the right guy despite all of his past, then so be it. If you can provide, Urban Meyer's the guy that can maybe change the trajectory of this program within a very short time.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And like you said, maybe without that baggage, like here's the thing. If the stuff hadn't come out at Jacksonville, he might not be the head coach at Jacksonville, but is there a chance he's coaching somewhere? Probably. There's a lot of NFL. The NFL coaching carousel is basically just a revolving door. It's a recycling of coaches. The old Miami coach will go to New York Giants. The Giants coach will go to Houston Texans. The Houston Texans coach will go to the Dolphins. Like it's
Lovie
really,
Smith is coaching in the NFL now.
It's literally just a recycling bin of coaches,
right?
Whether they've been good at one place or not. But, and we've gotten this on the text line quite a bit about how Urban Meyer sucked in Jacksonville. I get that.
Yeah.
But look at what he's done at the college level.
Yeah.
Like, look at it, and it's a different game at the collegiate level and the NFL
Nick Saban, Steve Spurrier. There's plenty of examples of guys that should prove that too.
Yeah. So I think it's interesting to see. It's definitely a very passionate discussion. Here we go. Let's go to the Honda Lincoln hotline. Caller, I appreciate you being patient. I believe we have Jacob on the line. Jacob, hey man, I appreciate you being patient big time. What's on your mind?
I'm just concerned with the rest of the 2022 season. Everybody's looking forward to the 2023 season.
Mm-hmm.
We still have games ahead of us that we can win. I mean, what's the what's the fix to move on with the offensive line? Obviously, I mean, after this game, the defensive line. I thought the linebackers played pretty decently today, given the circumstances of not scoring on offense at all. I just want to get your guys' thoughts on what's going forward the rest of the season, seeing as we still have games left and a Big Ten West division that's not very good that we could absolutely win.
Thanks for the call, Jacob. And once again, thank you for being patient. Big Ten West open. It is. Purdue loses to Syracuse today. Wisconsin lost to Washington State last week. Northwestern lost to Southern Illinois, although you've already played them. Illinois lost to Indiana at home. Indiana was down by 2 touchdowns. I don't know what the end result was.
They came back and won, actually.
Okay, so Indiana at one point, though, was down by 2 touchdowns to Western Kentucky at home, and Indiana beat Illinois. Like I said, Purdue lost to Syracuse. Iowa can't score the football. The Big Ten West is open. But is Nebraska going to take it? At some point, Bach, as a program, whether it's this season or even in years past and years future, as a program, maybe this is my fault for saying it at the top of the show, it was the Big Ten West is bad, and although Nebraska's bad, maybe with the Big Ten West being bad, they can actually get lucky a couple games and win some. At some point, whether it's this season or next year or the following year, Nebraska as a program has to take the Big Ten West. They have to go out and say, the Big Ten West is garbage, but we're not the garbage team in the Big Ten West, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I get, kind of piling on the Big Ten West and their early season struggles. One thing, the Big Ten West usually gets better as the season goes on, just their brand of football. And that's the other part of this, is that, Wisconsin lost to Washington State, but you've got to go out there yourself and stop Wisconsin running back from getting 200 yards. And that doesn't happen in the Nebraska-Wisconsin rivalry. Is it winnable? Sure, but is a team without an offensive line and a very good front on defense going to win it? Probably not. That's not the Big Ten West.
There's a difference between if the conference is or the division is winnable, or if you have a team that is capable of grabbing the division. There's a difference.
Yeah.
The Big Ten West is extremely winnable. However, is Nebraska that type of team right now, being as fragile as they are, capable of going out there and putting together a consistent product in multiple Saturdays and consecutive Saturdays? No, they are not.
Also, keep in mind, Minnesota, I know they haven't played anybody. I think they're beating down on Colorado again. Colorado is a nobody. If you haven't noticed lately,
they are bad.
They're really bad.
They are bad.
That Carl Durrell hire is not going to work out as we all thought. Somehow he made it work in year one, but in any case,
it is bad. They are bad.
In any case, Minnesota, once they beat Colorado and they were like leading the nation in offense and defense coming into the week against bad opponents, but they have Michigan State next week, so they can make I'm just saying Minnesota might be good. They might be one of the team. Well, we look at all these other teams that are struggling. Minnesota might be good. Wisconsin is usually going to get better as the season goes on.
And as much as we hate PJ Fleck, here he is again.
Yeah.
He's put themselves as of right now in the Big Ten West lead.
Yeah.
As of right now, obviously they haven't played a ton of competition. And this goes back to my point about identifying the difference between your ceiling and your expectation. Is unnamed texter says this: Nebraska needs to worry about winning a damn game. Forget the Big Ten West title.
Yeah.
You can't have your expectation be a Big Ten West title. And this is not coming at the texter, but this is kind of working my way into the point. You can't have your expectation with whatever coach it is be Big Ten West title, but then your ceiling be 8 wins. Because there's a disconnect, right? Because then you want everybody on the same page. You need transparency, right? Tell me what you are. Tell me where you're going. Tell me how you're going to get there.
Yeah.
That's where you're at. And I just think that's maybe where Nebraska has kind of had a disconnect in the last couple of years. Let's go back to the phone lines. We got True Red on the hotline. True Red, hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. What's on your mind?
So basically, I just wanted to say a couple of things. One, we're already down. Like at that time, 28 points or 35 points. We should have went for it on that 4th and a half yard. I didn't understand the punt there. To me, it instills that you don't have any belief in your team, which, actually affects it. The other thing is the defense. I didn't see any improvements other than the first series. out there. I don't know how Mickey Joseph is going to address that situation. It's really bad. I scouted Indiana a little bit today, but I did sit and watch every single minute of the Husker game as a diehard fan that I am, with the sourness in my stomach and sadness in my heart to see the way the season's going. Other than that, Urban Meyer, I did watch the Big Noon Kickoff while I was listening to you guys on the radio.
Awesome.
He really did acknowledge the fan base of the Husker Nation, how faithful we are, the best fan base in the nation, the stadium, the tradition. To me, it sounded like he was truly, truly invested in believing in the concept and the history of Nebraska. And I would love to see Urban Meyer come in as the head coach.
Appreciate the phone call. Thank you very much.
Even predict Nebraska actually to win this game.
Yeah.
Him and Reggie Bush kind of got caught up with the excitement.
Yeah, I thought I saw that as well. The rail yard went insane
Yeah.
when we saw the ends pop up. Okay, let's take the last phone call of the show today before we get to our final segment. Scott is on the line. Scott, thanks for being patient. What's on your mind?
Yeah, I think our job, head coach job, is very desirable.
Yeah.
Look at anybody that's successful in Nebraska. One becomes a U.S. senator. One gets a sports center named after him. If you turn this program around, you're going to be a god in Nebraska. I think this job is very, very, very desirable.
I think. Thank you, Scott. I think so too. Right. I think it is desirable, whoever you may be. Right. You got resources, which are a big thing. And that's one of the biggest things that a coach can ask for when they go to a new place, is the ability to basically do whatever they want. And when you have multiple national titles, I think three national titles,
Nebraska,
Urban Meyer.
Oh, Urban Meyer. Yeah, he's got
three
Yeah.
national titles,
Yep.
3 Big Ten titles. You're going to be able to go anywhere and do whatever you want. So it is desirable. And Nebraska is a place where they roll out the red carpet and do anything. And whether it's Urban Meyer, whether it's Matt Campbell, whether it's Mickey Joseph, they will roll out the red carpet, provide anything you need to get the job done. They did that with Scott Frost. They gave him more than a fair shake, and you can't expect anything other than that for the next guy, whoever it may be. Let's get to our final timeout. When we come back, we'll have our final thoughts on Nebraska's 49-14 loss. Where do they go from here into the bye week? And we'll ship it off out to Tanner's Bar and Grill, 30th and Yankee Hill. DP and the folks out there will have their thoughts following Nebraska's loss against Oklahoma as they fall to 1-3 on the year. We'll be right back. You're listening to the Husker Afterparty Postgame Show on 93.7 The Ticket.
Action Plumbing, Heating, Air, and Electric brings exciting career opportunities for you or someone you know. They are now hiring plumbers, electricians, and HVAC techs and installers to continually build their professional team. They offer competitive pay and full benefits packages that include health, dental, vision, PTO, and 401k options. Action has created a positive team environment for over 50 years. Apply online at actionlincoln.com.
Bauer Infrastructure is a new name from a well-established brand, and they're paving the way to progress. And they're hiring. Bauer Infrastructure is hiring truck drivers, carpenters, truck mechanics, and equipment operators. And they have industry-leading benefits to maintain a work-life balance. Bauer offers paid time off and paid holidays, a matching 401k plan, medical, dental, vision, life, and disability insurance, a clothing allowance, and more. Start your new career today by applying at BauerInfrastructure.com.
Get an immediate look back at the game from the people who know it best. It's the Tanner's Postgame Show and the Final Word live from Tanner's Bar and Grill at 30th and Yankee Hill. Hear from former players and national champions like Jay Foreman, Rashawn Jackson, and Aaron Davis and see what they saw in that day's game. It's the Tanner's Postgame Show and the Final Word, live and in person, home or away at Tanner's Bar and Grill, brought to you by Bauer Infrastructure. Only here on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Your home should not be a zoo to unwelcomed animals. Let the experts at Bats to Rats take care of those problems. Dane has been a leader in wildlife and pest management and prevention in Lincoln and the surrounding area for 15 years. He can help you get rid of bats, rodents, and anything else. Whether it's residential or commercial buildings, schools, apartments, or churches, they're always a phone call away. Call today at 402-310-0904 or visit batsterats.com. Bats to Rats Wildlife Control and Prevention.
This show's pretty rockin', huh?
Yeah, I'm so glad my State Farm agent helped me go.
Huh?
My State Farm agent. They help me with options to personalize my auto insurance to get a great rate that fits my budget, so I don't have to give up the things I love.
Wow. Hey, so do you think I could get your State Farm agent's number?
Call your local State Farm agent, Vinny Krekak, at 402-474-1173.
Individual premiums and budgets will vary by customer. All applicants subject to State Farm underwriting requirements.
Trendy or traditional, Gary Michaels Clothiers specializes in men's tailored clothing. Off the rack or custom made to measure, there is simply no better shopping experience. Offering designer furnishings, sportswear, shoes, outerwear, and accessories for a man always concerned at looking his best. With world-class tailoring and personal service, all makes Gary Michaels Clothiers Nebraska's premier store for men. Come visit us now at Village Gardens, south of 56th and Pine Lake Road in Lincoln.
Landmark Implement, your local John Deere dealership, is searching for mechanics of all skill levels to grow with us. Landmark offers a competitive wage, full benefits package, along with paid time off within just 60 days of employment, as well as a 401k and a boot and clothing allowance. Interested in becoming a part of the Landmark difference? Apply now at landmarkimp.com/careers or contact Deanna 402-310-7561 or email careers@landmarkimp.com. That's landmarkimp.com. Landmark Implement is the equal opportunity employer.
Working at Continental in Lincoln isn't a job, it's a career. And right now they've raised wages again and they're hiring for production operators at $22.58 per hour. And other select jobs is starting at $24.28 per hour, with wages growing up to $30.30 per hour. Continental also has salaried jobs available and great benefits, plus medical and prescription costs at very low premiums. Dental, vision, and life insurance are offered at no premium cost to the associates. To learn more or to apply, go to continental-jobs.com with keyword Lincoln. Come work at Continental today.
When you're high, you feel different. You think different, you talk different, you draw different, you listen to music different, but you probably knew that. Problem is, you also drive different, and not in a good way. That's why driving high is illegal everywhere. So if you're high, just don't drive. Make a plan to get a sober ride. Because if you feel different, you drive different. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Back to the Husker Afterparty Postgame Show on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Nick Sander, Jake Bakoven back with you guys. We are inside the studio currently, but here in a couple minutes, we'll send it out to DP and the guys out at Tanner's Bar and Grill, 30th and Yankee Hill. We'll continue our post-game coverage as former Huskers, and DP will give their thoughts on Nebraska's 49-14 loss at the hands of the Oklahoma Sooners. Once again, give credit to the Sooners because they came in, they took the energy out. When Nebraska came out, once again, Nebraska's problem so far this season, no matter who's been the head coach, has not been coming out of the locker room necessarily at the start of games, right? Some of their best offensive possessions have been out of the locker room to begin the game, the scripted plays, right? So, but give Oklahoma credit, give Brent Venables credit. They found a guy in Brent Venables. I understand it's only been 3 games, but this is a really, really good starting point for Oklahoma, right? To where they're 3-0. They took care of the teams that they were supposed to take care of with the high expectations with Brent Venables against UTEP and Kent State, the Golden Flashes. Then they go on and their first road test of the season, they win handily 49-14. Just the way where if you asked the people down from Norman over throughout this last week, just the way they expected it to. How calming and enjoyable must it be?
College football needs Oklahoma and USC to have great games and meet in the playoff. Great seasons, meet in the playoffs. That would be intense, and maybe it's off to a good start, but I do think that's part of it. I think Oklahoma's maybe better than some of us thought coming in. I think that first possession for Nebraska, if you want any sort of joy, just go back and watch that. 3 plays, 3 first downs right out of the gate, and then, of course, the long pass to Trey Palmer. Very, very little excitement after that.
So once again, your final score, Oklahoma 49-14. They come on the road to
player of the game.
Player of the game is for them.
That's for them. Okay,
yep.
Double check.
So, player of the game has been decided thanks to you guys on Twitter. We'll do that every week. Shout out to all of our sponsors for the Husker After Party Postgame Show: Action Plumbing, Heating, AC, and Electrical, Gary Michaels Clothiers, Brant Excavating as well. And thank you to you guys for listening, chiming in. The phone calls were great. Very, very passionate fan base, which shout out to you guys. You guys keep showing up. You keep cheering, and you're here every single week hanging out with us. So thank you very much. But we'll be back, not next Saturday, but the following Saturday on the Husker After Party Postgame Show. Stick around. We'll be going live here in a couple minutes from Tanner's Bar and Grill, 30th and Yankee Hill. For Jake Bachhoven, I'm Nick Sainert. Have a good rest of your weekend.
Lincoln's best place to meet, eat, and compete.
Bowling, check. Arcade, check. Laser tag, check. Mini golf, check. Sand volleyball, cornhole, bocce, food, drinks, check, 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 check. The newly renovated Sun Valley Lanes and Games has something fun to offer for guests of all ages. Win prizes in the arcade or challenge your friends in one of the many attractions. Plan a night of fun by reserving your spot online at sunvalleylanes.com.
Sun Valley.
Trendy or traditional, Gary Michaels Clothiers specializes in men's tailored clothing. Off the rack or custom made to measure, there is simply no better shopping experience. Offering designer furnishings, sportswear, shoes, outerwear, and accessories for a man always concerned at looking his best. With world-class tailoring and personal service, all makes Gary Michaels Clothiers Nebraska's premier store for men. Come visit us now at Village Gardens, south of 56th and Pine Lake Road in Lincoln.
Action Plumbing, Heating, Air, and Electric is the call I make when I have a need for plumbing services. Whether it's for my home or office, if I need a repair to a water heater, softener, or even my garbage disposal, I know I can count on Action